Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. So today we are meeting a special guest. We are meeting my dear friend from college, Ajit. I spent a lot of days and late nights burning midnight oil with Ajit studying for our quizzes back in college, and we have wonderful memories together. So Ajit is currently working as an investment banker with Kotak. Ajit will tell us more about his current role. But he's doing incredibly well in his field, and he'll today help us understand what it takes to develop a career in investment banking. So let's get this conversation started. Hi Ajit, welcome to our channel.
It's nice that I can contribute.
Yep, start karte hain. College में what were you thinking about your career, Ajit? Did you want to go into finance even when you were in IIT?
During the college, after the end of my first year, I did wanted to do a PhD. After second year, I went to ISC, did my internship. I found it that to do well in biotech, you need to do a PhD at least. And I didn't want to spend a decade just getting prepped up. So long story short, ended up pursuing evaluating rather a lot of career opportunities in campus, ranging from analytics to finance. Also took a few courses in mathematics and the Department of Management Studies, and ultimately ended up going into Wipro STAR program, which was a 2-year short-term management program from Wipro. However, going forward, even that program wasn't going anywhere, and essentially ended up doing MBA to switch my career.
So when you took this decision that you want to do an MBA, all you knew was that you needed a change in career, but you were not sure about investment banking or finance at that point, right?
Right.
Okay, so that evaluation happened when you were in MBA, and probably during placements, you tried to figure that, okay, where do you?
No, not that late. Okay. So among the campuses that I was able to clear, I was able to successfully clear IIM Calcutta, and given that the campus specialization is finance, somehow my preference for finance kept on increasing.
Got
so
it.
That's how it started. At the end of my so essentially in your B school, in your very first semester, you have to choose a company for your internship, and there I essentially ended up doing my internship at ICICI Securities as a part of a research division. So that essentially tilted my career preference towards finance. And then during my second year rather, after I came back from my summer internship, I ended up largely selecting most of the finance courses. So essentially the first year curriculum is largely fixed for all the students. The second year is something that you choose for yourself. And I ended up taking more of my finance electives. The reason why I took investment banking was because it opened up a plethora of options for you. So I don't know how long, as in I will continue investment banking during my career, but I did knew that investment banking will give me an option to move in all the space, whether you want to get into private equity roles, that you can go in there, whether you want to go into corporate roles, you can go in there, whether you want to go into strategy roles, you can go in there, and also you can take up consulting roles. Essentially, investment banking is an advisory role, but if you want to do a full-fledged just consulting rather than fundraising, you can go into that as well. So it does open a wide range of options for you.
So what are you doing currently, Ajit? Can you talk about what you do in your day-to-day work in your current role?
Sure. So just in May this year, I will complete my 6 years in investment banking. Right now, I'm a part of the pharma and healthcare coverage team at Kotak Investment Banking. Essentially, you start being a part of something called a pool, essentially where you work across sectors. And then you are expected to specialize or align to one of the verticals. For me, it happened to be pharma and healthcare. So for most part of my last 5 years, I have been aligned to pharma and healthcare. I did align a bit early into my specialization. The reason being, I didn't want to be a generalist for long. But having said that, if I had an option to go back, maybe I will choose to be a generalist for a bit longer, because the way my MD described career at investment banking was a sort of an I kind of a role. So you start with being a generalist, and thereafter you specialize, and essentially as you go up higher in the organization, you are expected to be a generalist again. So right now I am as AVP at Kotak Investment Banking, where I cover pharma and healthcare clients. So my role is essentially to assist companies to raise capital, be it public equity or private equity. So essentially, whether it is through the capital market route, be it IPO, QIPs, assisting companies in that, or it is to help them raise capital, say from private equity investors, or even if some investors or companies promoter are looking to divest of their stake, we also help those companies evaluate strategic options.
So Ajit, what are some of the primary skills that one should have to build a successful career in investment banking?
So a couple of things. One is that from a fundamental perspective, you are expected to be sharp, and those are some of the very hygiene checks. So whether it be it analyzing companies' financial, company strategy, the business trend in the industry trends, you have to be spot on that. Uh, uh, which strategy is working for company, if some strategy is not working, what hasn't worked for companies. So essentially your career is not very different from that of a consultant who's advising companies, just that you are focused on monetizing capital for the company. So one of the fundamental things that is also required is you have to build a very strong network and intelligence, because no company will try to align or go to anyone who doesn't understand the market well. And to understand that market well, you need to have a very strong network, be it in the strategic circle, the companies with which you engage, or be it on the buy side, essentially the investors with whom you network, be it in the private side, or be it on the public institutional investor side. For the initial years, just having a fundamental knowledge will suffice. But going forward, if you want to really excel, you have to build that network, your own network. And essentially in the long run, how that helps is you build your own brand, your own face in that industry, and that is how people identify. So along with the brand of your company, your own brand also building is a essential recipe to succeed in this industry.
So one of the very important things to look at, as you mentioned, is what can be your exit options, because career, as we know, is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you have to like think about what will be the options at hand once you are like tenured in that particular field for like a few years. So Ajit, like you spent like close to 5 to 6 years now in this company. And you might have seen people take various career moves, right? Can you tell us, what are some of usual career paths that people are taking in your company and in general in investment banking?
So as I said, that some of the typical exit options for people here are moving into private equities. Some people also move into the public equity side rather. So there are some which are focused just on private equity. Public equity essentially are the institutional investors who invest in listed companies. So these being one of the exit option, then people also take strategic exits. So they essentially go into the finance roles of various companies. Most often they essentially go into the domain in which they are covering. If it is an entry level role, it will not, the domain may not make that much of a difference. But if the people is an experienced person, say with 5 to 6 years of experience or 10 years of experience, the vertical does matter. Thirdly, there are also people who take entrepreneurial exits. So you will have known Falguni Nair. She was the MD of Kotak in 2012. She exited and then built Nika from scratch.
Right. So having been in this company for like a good amount of time now, can you list some of the other pros of being an investment banker, apart from, having your hands on a lot of very good exit options?
So the good thing about investment banking is that you have a very broad sense of a lot of things. You might have a narrow sense of the intricacies, but you have a very, very broad sense of a lot of aspects in the company. So it is not just about finance domain. It is not just about any company. So essentially we sell companies to investors. And so you have to essentially be on the top of all their business verticals. So be it HR, be it technology investments, be it facility, manufacturing, operations, be it supply chain. So you have a very broad overview of all these aspects. And given that you work on with multiple companies, you are able to understand many companies very, very, very deeply. So I have worked with more than 50 companies now, and I can't say that any two companies are very similar. So they might look very similar at a high level, but once you go inside, you realize that the companies are very, very different. So these are some of the second order kind of understanding that you are able to build, which is something it's very difficult to build otherwise. Looking for being an outsider, it's very difficult to build it. This is something that it helps.
Yeah, that's interesting. And having talked about upside now, what are some of the downsides that you see of a career in investment banking? What are some of the frustrations that you like live through in your career, and which make people take an attrition from investment banking and seek for other exit options?
Right. So you would have seen there are many articles about people getting overworked, people getting burned out. So these are common in investment banking, more so for some of the bulge bracket IB companies. So where you would have heard people working more than 100 hours. So even in our roles, even in my starting years, we do have more stretched working hours. More so, it's like say 70 hours, 70 to 75 hours a week. So that's expected, and somehow that does affect your work-life balance. If not say in the initial years, maybe after you get married, it does affect. And over the period, as you grow into investment banking, that work-life balance does improve, but then your own family responsibilities grow at a higher rate. So maybe many people take a exit from IB because of this work-life balance issue. So the second thing, which is also similar lines, essentially in investment banking, you have to build the business every time from scratch one. So if you have originated one deal and you have closed that deal, for the next deal, you have to work equally hard and have to build that. You might have that relationship, but you need to again go and pitch to that client, convert that into business and execute it. So every time you have to build from scratch one. Unlike from many businesses where you have a continued stream of revenue, in sense there is some grind to it, and people do exit because of this.
Got it. And now, can we talk about who all can enter into investment banking? We talked about exit options. Now let's talk about entry avenues, right? So is MBA necessary to get into investment banking, or people who are working in other domains can also get an IB role? And if so, how can they do so?
So of course, MBA is not required for IB. Many of the skills which I have gained from MBA, more from a fundamental perspective, have been useful. That might have helped me to get into an associate role directly at Kotak. But I have many colleagues at Kotak who have directly joined from their undergrad. And so essentially they will join as an analyst. For them, the focus is more on fundamentals and just understanding the nuances of the industry. And I think that is something which they graduate very quickly. So absolutely not required.
So you talked about like people who directly join from their undergrad or let's say grad schools, but what about lateral entries? Are lateral entries encouraged in IB? And if yes, what all domains people generally take lateral entry into IB?
Right. So lateral entries, people do make a lateral entry in IB. So generally people who are working in some related kind of a space, or people who have been working as a consultant for long, for them making an entry into IB is more natural. So at Kotak, I have seen people joining from say, so people who were doing audits early in their career, and have then moved into IB kind of a role. People who were doing management consulting, they have moved into investment banking and continuing their consulting journey here. So, but having said that, this is not the norm. Generally, people who are working in IB generally move up the order, but there are quite a few who have secured lateral entry as well.
So Ajit, let's say if you knew from the start that you wanted to get into investment banking, what would you have done differently? How would you have designed a better career path?
I think if I had got that option and if I wanted to again go into investment banking, I would have taken a more direct route, of course. Maybe I would have not gone into IIT and done directly a CA degree, just taken a CA degree and gone into directly join an IB firm. So essentially, I could have saved at least 3 to 4 years that way, even though you may accommodate working as an analyst for a few years, but that would have been a more direct career path.
Yeah, if only we know when we were back in our school or in college that what ultimately we want to do. But as we know, right, we all are continuously figuring out what our interest is and what we want to do. So what would you advise someone who is very early in their, let's say, college? How should they approach their career decisions?
I think it is very important to spend some time to at least think in which direction they are moving. They should identify some of the options which they have. And having said that, you may even zero down on one of the options, but essentially you should not rule out moving into some of the other options. So you should have a plan A, plan B figured out in your life, and you should keep on moving with that. So life is dynamic; it will keep on changing. But having said that, do spend time. What is very unfair is just going guided by somebody else's aspirations. So just realize what you want to figure in your life, have some career options, and have a plan B, a plan C for sure.
Yep. Do you think having a mentor can help people take better career decisions? So, for example, when you were in college, if you would have access to people who are already doing investment banking, or say if you were back in school and you would get to talk to someone who is in investment banking or consulting, and hear from them, what can be the best way to chart out their career paths. Do you think that would help?
Absolutely. Having said, if I had an option to go back to think about my career, I think that's how I would have progressed. There is nothing better than speaking to someone, learning from someone's own journey. And what you should be mindful is that you should not extrapolate your life into them. So everyone's career will play out very differently, but there is no replacement to hearing it directly from the people.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we are trying to address here. We are trying to fill in that information asymmetry, bring some real life first person accounts of careers to people through this channel, and also we are trying to set up a mechanism so that people are able to get mentorship early on in their careers. And I hope this is valuable to people who are in the midst of taking their career decisions. It was amazing getting this first-hand account from you, Ajit, on investment banking, and I'm sure your experience will help a lot of people. So thanks a lot for taking out time, and we should meet soon. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been, and I hope this session would be useful to some of the aspirants. And all the best to you too.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.